Hello and welcome to the final cigar mile at the Big A edition of Talking Horses. Sarah Bodwy here with Jonathan Kinchin. We have 11 races to talk about, 50 minutes to do it. Are you ready for a track record?
You know, I like to go quick.
All right, let's do this. We have some ways to play the races. Of course, you're going to head on over to Naira Bets, get signed up with that $200 deposit match sign up bonus using the promo code bonus200. Best way to play all of the races today and every day. In that cigar mile, we do have a money back guarantee. You can get $20 of your win bet back if your horse comes in second in the cigar mile. Opt in over at nairabets.com. If you're playing Tampa today, we also have 10 times the loyalty points. You get 10 times the reward points on any race on the Tampa Bay Downs card. And today's show, we have FS1 11 to 2, FS2 2 to 5. We have a team out at Caymanas Park in Jamaica. Maggie is there with Andy this year, living the tropical lifestyle. So we'll be showing those races as well as today's 11 race card. But it all starts in race number 1, where we do see a couple of scratches. What'd you do here?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to try to beat the 5 Brave Buck with the 6 Divine Leader, but with that scratch, I kind of ended up landing here. You know, none of these horses jump off the page. I think the top 2 in the market would have been the 1 and the 6 anyway. So I think the 5 Brave Buck just ends up kind of being a free square here. I mean, I'll use Cathedral Beach, but I don't love Cathedral Beach.
I don't love Cathedral Beach either. I think it's hard to really love somebody in this spot. I just hope that this horse is a little bit more forwardly placed on the slate cutback from the 2-7 furlong tries, a horse that I think he does his better running when he's forward. I think his main pace rival did scratch out of this race and that there shouldn't be too much pace on early. I think the interesting horse is OP Firecracker, cutting back, dropping, blinkers coming off, but he just has no speed whatsoever.
Yeah, a lot of changes there, which go a long way from time to time, but I just feel like some of his best races were going longer. I worry that it's going to be too sharp of a cutback.
We'll move on to race 2, where we do have the 2-year-olds in the spotlight for the first time today. And Schoolyard Superman is a horse who's 3-1 on the morning line. Chad Brown having 2 in here that are going to be some of your shorter prices in all likelihood. And this horse does have 2 races, one where he did not cross the wire but was thankfully okay after sitting in behind horses. But then it seemed as though tactics were to have him be more forwardly placed, have him more towards the outside of horses to not get in that position yet again. He barely holds on for second in here. I wasn't in love with this effort.
No, and an odds-on effort as well for Chad. Usually when he's odds-on, they run well and win. Not always, but a lot of times. And so when they come up a little bit short, you do start to kind of question it. The number was a little bit light as well on Schoolyard Superman, which is one of the reasons why I ended up going with the horse on the rail with experience. And even besides that, picking the first-time starter for Chad ahead of the 2. I won't be shocked if the 2 wins, but I think there's an opportunity to try to beat that horse.
I agree. I think Mr. Miracle, as you mentioned, very interesting in here. 5-2 morning line for Chad Brown, first-time starter by Curlin. This one will have Flavien Prat aboard, and I think it'll be interesting to see how he's bet now that Irad Ortiz Jr. is riding here today when we've seen such an influx of money and shorter prices with some of his horses.
Yeah, I mean, I think Flavian's still going to probably take a bunch of money just because of the success he's had. I mean, Irad's going to always take his as well, but I think the hot hand, at least for the New Yorkers at the moment, will probably go to Flavien. And with that horse, the 7, Mr. Miracle, you know, this is a situation where the dam won first time out sprinting, and Chad's debuting going a mile with a Curlin. It just feels like a kind of a perfect storm of a precocious horse that wants to go long first time out.
Definitely agree, and it seems as though this one spotted on Remsen Day could be a good one, hefty purchase price as well. But you've gone to double act for Bill Mott, a horse who really improved stretching out in distance.
Yeah, I thought the race last time was pretty good. And I think that, like you mentioned, it went hand in hand with the fact this horse was going a little bit further. So I like the progressive nature of the horse. He's tactical enough to not get into too much trouble down there on the inside, and just feels like one that's going in the right direction, and the blinkers come off for maybe a more grown-up, finished product type of performance today.
Yeah, I like the progressive improvement for this horse. He was exiting a race where there was a heavy favorite in there who ended up winning, a horse who was coming out of a race that was won by a horse who we'll see later on in today's Remsen, and that's kind of where I went with a horse like Stream It, who I thought just sort of ran in place last time out, but I thought that race was sort of controlled from the beginning. And after breaking as slowly as this one did, I felt as though it was just sort of an educational experience for this horse, routing on the dirt for the first time. he comes out of a race where we'll see, like I mentioned, courting and grittiness later on in the Remsen today. It just seems as though this one has that room for improvement.
Absolutely. Yeah, certainly does have an opportunity to take a step forward. I guess, because I didn't have the 4, I feel like I owe this explanation. It was more or less the horse never really took any money, and the pace figures last time, although it was close, wasn't that quick. So I just felt like that race looks just a tad bit better on paper. But you're 100% right. I mean, these are all kind of progressive types that can all change overnight. So I wouldn't be shocked by any means if the 4 would have won.
And speaking of, we get to the Demoiselle, where we do have those 2-year-old fillies, Mile and an Eighth, in here. And Zany is a horse that I feel as though has been the talk of the racetrack for this weekend. And look, this horse has the pedigree to stretch out in distance and handle a little bit more ground. We're taking a look at her race at Gulfstream, where she didn't even break that quickly, was still able to establish that forward position. And there's some little hints of greenness in here, I thought, with the late lead change, shifting ground, that maybe suggests that she's one that could improve off of this effort, which was a solid debut for sure.
Absolutely. What, Todd's won this race 9 or 10 times?
A few.
The thing about Zany for me is like, I know that Mike Rapoli can sometimes be viewed as like, an aggressive type that wants to be in all the big races, but he also allows Todd to train the horses. Obviously when it comes to like big horses, they might say, hey, let's run them both in the same race, those types of decisions. But I feel like this is a very aggressive move for a horse that has a ton of talent in Zany that they wouldn't do if Todd didn't believe that this is what she wants to do in November, December of her 2-year-old year. Otherwise, it's just like take a deep breath, bring her back, and run in a one-turn race at Gulfstream, and then just kind of stay on that progressive chart going to the Gulfstream Park Oaks, leading into the Kentucky Oaks. The fact that they're bringing her up here, running her to Mile and an Eighth, off a 6.5 furlong win in wire-to-wire fashion, just screams confidence to me. I think she might be pretty darn good.
And looking at Todd Pletcher's stats, stretching out those 2-year-old maiden winners last time out on the dirt, he is 6 for 24 over the past 5 years with a $1.84 ROI. Isolated to Naira, it's 2 for 14. But when you look at with the favorite, he's 2 for 5. So usually when they're well meant to be in a spot like this, and he does take that aggressive move that you mentioned, it's with intent and with a horse that has some talent. I don't have anything against her necessarily. I just looked at this field with the only horse who has only one race, who doesn't have route experience yet, and as the favorite, I just couldn't quite put her on top, so I sort of went to the other Todd Pletcher in Believable. We'll take a look at the Tempted, where Schilling and Believable did face one another. And look, I think as that race, I want to ask you, did you feel as though, or this is Believable's maiden win, did you feel as though the number for the Tempted was a little bit light?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I think Schilling and Believable both regressed from a figure standpoint, depending, Timeform US. So for me, I think that of those two, Believable and Schilling, Believable makes sense if you think that Zany and Schilling are going to get into some sort of a duel, if they're going to look each other in the eye all the way around there. If for whatever reason you don't think that's the case, I think Believable is going to have a lot of work to do to try to pick up pieces. It sounds like you're going with the version of it's probably going to be pretty honest up front. I'm going with the version that I think Schilling's going to pop away from there and Zany's going to sit off of Schilling, and they're not going to go that quick. But we'll find out in about an hour and 45 minutes.
Exactly. Look, I think that with Believable, she didn't break all that well in both first starts. So I think, to me, that's what's signaling that she is getting the blinkers on now. I don't love the regression, but I kind of wonder if that figure in the Tempted is one that we'll see replicated moving forwards, or if we'll see these horses run something a little bit more similar to what they did first time out or in prior races. And it just seems like she was never really in position to be effective in this spot. You can see her kind of lugging in there. It seems as though this is a horse that will benefit from the addition of that equipment to focus. And I don't necessarily know how hot the pace is going to be, but I know that she's capable of at least putting herself in range. There is pedigree for this horse to handle a lot of distance, being a full sibling to tenfold. The rest of the foals didn't do that much, but I just like that this one might be a better price as the other Todd Pletcher with a little more experience.
Yeah, and like you said, I think they'll be pretty aggressive with Zany. I think there's a chance they'll be aggressive with Zany, considering that they also have Believable. And so if it goes too fast, but what I think Schilling, because she's drawn inside, is going to send away from there, and Zany's just going to end up sitting off of her. But we'll see.
Yeah, and I don't think jumping the gun is totally out of things either. This one coming in from out of town, first defeat was in the first round of ground for this horse. I think the winner was much the best in this spot, who was the second choice in here. They put on a good show. I wish that this horse had a little bit more handiness out of the gate, but this horse kind of fits and I think will be overlooked.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And the one thing about her is that she's from a speed figure standpoint. I know she's been running at Delaware, but from a speed figure standpoint, she's within 3 points of the favorite. She's faster than Believable. She's faster than Concurrently. So why can't she win? I think a lot of times just where they've run previously can sometimes have them be ignored.
Yeah, I agree completely. And she has some pedigree too. I mean, it's not as though this is a horse that was some sort of bargain purchase that's really outrunning her lineage in here. She has plenty of experience. She can pass horses. So I wouldn't want to completely discount her as we move on to race 4, where I think the conversation revolves around a horse like Army Gal and what you do with this one. You've decided to go against a little bit more than I have, but she seems like the main logical type in here.
Yeah, her performance two back was really good. She ran into Senza Parole. That didn't go great. The one thing I don't like about her race two back is, there's been 5 horses that have run back and only one that's run very well. That's a little bit of a concern how good that performance actually was, because that number kind of jumped up out of nowhere. Look, she can win. I just felt like there were some others in here that were just a little bit more interesting, and she's going to be bet too. Linda, with horses like this that kind of fit figure-wise, have good wins in the last couple races, they typically take a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's kind of that race where everybody else is a little bit fuzzy outside of her. You've gone to Meg's Foxy Gray towards the outside for Michelle Nevin.
Yeah, this is just one. This is a kind of a post position. I love where she's drawn. She's cutting back from the 7 furlongs to the 6. You look at Timeform US, her pace figures suggest that's going to be a good move for her. And she gets Ricardo, who's aggressive. He's drawn where I love Ricardo to be drawn. All his time he spends at Oaklawn, that kind of stalking trip is what I think wins this race. I think she's a very interesting alternative to the favorite in Linda Rice.
Yeah, this one cutting back slightly from the 7 furlongs and has some good recency. And I think the horse that we've both left out that's going to take money in here is Layered for trainer Chad Brown. And I think this horse is just going to take money based on connections when this one hasn't really run fast enough to be competitive.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the horse ran well first time out. Got a nice figure. Then he tossed her into a stake. She went backwards at a short price. And then he tried the turf. So to me, it starts feeling like it's a little bit of a guess. Where does this one fit? Where does this one fit? And I love to single a short-priced, extremely live Chad Brown runner as much as the next guy. However, when they're short and they're a little dirty, those are the ones I think you can pick up equity trying to fade.
Yeah, especially when you have horses with more proven form that have run faster races that could be of value given that this horse is in the race. I don't love the horse that I ended up picking on top in here, but I do like that this horse has those faster races on the go back. One over a wet track, yes, but I thought that this horse ran okay in the Jersey Girl, even in terms of the number that she earned, and that's Mila Candy, who I thought had everything up against her in that first start, finishing second to Limes Don't Lie. She actually ran very well after really putting away the other horses who were forwardly placed in there, with Limes Don't Lie coming from off the pace. I just thought that this horse would be a price and is kind of underestimated as one who has shown up pretty much every time that she's run on the dirt, and certainly seems capable of handling the surface and running a race that is just as, if not faster, than some of the horses that I thought would be shorter prices.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that her races feel a tad bit light, but she's knocking on the door, and if one of the big ones doesn't show up, I think she's right there in the mix. I don't have a problem. She feels like more of an underneath type to me with the inconsistency with the turf racing. But look, there's a lot of times people will pick 12-to-1 shots that I'll think like that horse has no shot. This is not one that I would argue about, just not one that I have in my top 4.
All right, good to know. You have Practical Love in the mix. I do as well. I thought about this horse for a little bit. I just had trouble envisioning what kind of trip would be most successful for her, but you could argue that maybe she's faced the best recent company.
Yeah, I mean, and she's got some back numbers, too, from Saratoga that put her right in the mix. That win that she had on July 5th, if she can duplicate that race, she certainly can win this one.
All right, we'll move on to the Elite Power, race 5, where we do have a Subrogate coming out of this spot. And you have two for Linda Rice in here, El Grandeo and Acoustic Ave coming in. El Grandeo off of a career best 100 buyer speed figure that was with Lasix. And it's not as though this horse hasn't run well in the past and always shown up in spots where he wasn't receiving Lasix. But I sort of wonder if that increase lately has been more a function of him being forward and him being on Lasix. What do you think?
I just don't trust that aspect of him. He's inconsistent. And at a short price from the rail, I think there's other options for a horse that you don't know if he's going to be affected by Lasix off, right? You know, you look at some of his poor performances, they are in correlation with that. So he can win, but I think at the price he'll be, I think others make a little bit more sense.
Yeah, it's an interesting field outside of him. I had the same feeling as you did. You went to Just Beat the Odds, who's coming in for Greg Sacco, who's hoping for a big day, a horse who we know can fire fresh, certainly. One that came in and ran a career best 103 buyer speed figure, winning over 24 Mamba, who was in decent form earlier this year. Then he doesn't show up against horses like Surveillance quite as much, but a 97 is still perfectly respectable with a less than aggressive ride over a wet track next out. I just feel like the barn's been a little bit cold, and that's my concern. But I did pick Crazy Mason later. So.
Yeah, I mean, the two-back race is what got me there, right? You got a 103 buyer that day, 24 Mamba, like you mentioned, ran a 91 in that race, came back and ran a 96. And then, can't read my own handwriting, Reason Analysis. Got a 77, came back and ran an 89. So that 103 that Just Beat the Odds earned, to me, is a real number. And if he can run that number here, he's going to be tough for these horses. So that's where I landed. And I like where he's drawn as well with his style.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that he gets a good aggressive ride, and I like that Manny Franco gets back aboard, who was on for that big win. I also like knowing that he can fire fresh with an effort like that off the bench. And look, Acoustic Ave is one that he had so much trouble in that start where he finished second behind Breslau. I don't love that Breslau came back and ran so poorly, but Acoustic Ave has been in excellent form. I just wonder if in this compact field he gets enough pace to close into. I went with a horse that I didn't necessarily think that I was going to pick coming into this race with Full Moon Madness, as we'll look back at his Tom Fool, which was his big victory in that Grade 3 earlier this year. I think that we just haven't seen him have the opportunity to come in third off a little bit of a layoff, because if you look back, it's something that is a pattern for him of being one of his faster races overall. I think that he's had some excuses in other starts where he didn't get the same forward position. I like that his last two races have been fairly consistent. Is he necessarily good enough in this spot? I don't know if everybody runs their A race, but at the same time, I feel like he has that element of consistency and is a little bit more tactical.
Yeah, he feels like one of those horses that's going to, the way that the race is run, the decisions that the riders make is going to have a huge impact on him. If he can stay connected, right, to this group, and he's all, you know, they're one of those like kind of bunched up small fields all the way around there, I think Full Moon Madness might outkick them all. You know, if Just Beat the Odds doesn't show up and run, I don't have a problem with him on top at all. I think he makes a lot of sense, and I like Ricardo for him as well with his style, to be a little bit more aggressive, to stay a little bit more connected.
I agree. As we move on to the 6th race, where we do have a couple of scratches of some horses that likely would have taken money with the 4 in here, where'd you go?
Yeah, I mean, I don't ever want to say that I hate a race, but I
strongly didn't like this
when
one.
There's a bunch of like horses that have run like maiden 40, maiden 30, maiden 40, 50, whatever, like 7 times and haven't won. It's very hard for my brain to be like, oh, all of a sudden they figured it out.
It's just that everyone else hasn't.
Yeah, and then there's a situation where like, well, okay, who's the maiden special weight dropper that I can just think might be better? This field didn't really have that horse, so I ended up just landing on the 10. Who ran well enough last time. You know, when there is a trainer change like that, especially to a trainer like Jamie Ness, it's almost like I ignore the 23 race 0-23, and I make the horse 0-4 with Jamie Ness, and then maybe now Jamie will have had some time to make some adjustments to fix some things. The figures are getting faster, so maybe the horse is improving. It doesn't make me warm and fuzzy, but I picked the 10.
I don't think this race can make anybody super warm and fuzzy unless you're the Winning Connections, in which case, congratulations, because there's just no dirt form in this race, and so you end up being attracted to a horse who at least has the dirt form going back, and this is not exactly an attractive proposition where you have the 0 for 22 with the 7 seconds, but I think that your strategy of isolating with new connections is a valid one, especially given the rest of this field. I just wanted somebody with less opportunities overall, a horse who is coming in, switching surfaces. It showed a little bit of early position on the turf. That's Lady Meringue, who, look, this horse is one that took no money first time out. I thought was caught a little bit wide in that turf sprint. Has that bullet dirt work coming in, and it just seems like the for sale sign is out. Like, look at me, I can run on the dirt. You should want to take me and have me for the winter if need be. So I don't know if this horse is going to be able to handle the surface, but I like that forward position as well as the possibility with an inside post that might be the case, because there's just not a ton to go on.
Yeah, I mean, it's every horse you look at, it's like, oh, I can't pick this horse. Oh, every one of them has that thing. And even when you try to get excited about something, like, I tried to get excited about the 6 Cat Stormy. The horse, lightly raced, took some money, made in special weight, but just like zero running at all.
It's not like it's an overwhelmingly dirt move up pedigree. Yeah.
Tough one.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will come back with race 7 in just a moment. We'll take a quick break.
You bet with Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Download the Naira Bets app to play today and get a $200 deposit bonus. Watch live horse racing. Get expert picks. Boost your bankroll with weekly promotions and hone your handicapping skills with exclusive tips and tutorials. Download the Naira Bets app now. Sign up now to claim your $200 deposit match bonus. You bet with Naira Bets.
A much more formful race, Sarah and Jonathan, talking horses for Cigar Mile Day at the Big A, the final time. And this full field of 11 horses now with 1 scratch, I think all centers around what you do with the impressive debut winner, Life and Times, who you ended up putting on top. But Jonathan, this was a fast race. This was impressive. I just feel as though this isn't the easiest next test for a horse that's going to be a short price.
Yeah, it's just he's one of those horses, though, like, makes his own running, gets to the front. The pace figures were fast. The final number was fast. You'd like to think that, taking that much time to get to the races, the horse probably, had some issues along the way. He gets that first start, runs off the screen, and the rest of them have had a long time to run that fast, and none of them have consistently done that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So I just horses like this, where I think you can actually find some value with horses like this, because people are like, oh, it's his first start. Now he's facing winners for the first time, and all those things that they actually will ignore a little bit and fall in love with someone else. And ice cold single for me in the pick 5 with the 6 Life and Times. I think if anyone beats him, it's Dreamlike because of the styles. Like, if Life and Times loses, to me, it's because
the pace falls apart.
Exactly, which could set up for a horse like Dreamlike. So if I was looking for even a partial alternative, it would be the 10, but I've got no problem hitching my entire wagon to the 6.
Yeah, the pace was my main concern with this horse, as well as the price, but I agree. That was impressive. You haven't seen many of these other horses, while several of them have been consistent and run fast races. We haven't seen it first time out, or something that they are regularly capable of repeating from race to race. I did wonder if you would take a little bit of pressure with some horses that have shown they do better when forwardly placed. That led me to a horse that I keep picking and who keeps finishing second or third, and that's Waitlist in here, who I thought would be a little bit more forward than a horse like Dreamlike, but also not necessarily need to be right up and on the pace. As we take a look back at Waitlist, Dreamlike, and Commuted on the 8th of November, I think that Waitlist has been a little bit unlucky in some spots. He's been facing some quality horses. He ran into an absolute buzzsaw with V Cruiser, where nobody was really making up significant ground in that race. He's been progressively improving overall for Linda Rice. I like when he's a little bit more forward. I feel as though the slight cutback from the mile and an eighth will help him. I'm a little bit tied to this horse as one that I keep chasing, but I have no argument with you at all that Life and Times is way the horse to beat if we see anything like that last race.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I had him pick third. I completely agree. I mean, I think that if Life and Times doesn't win, I think we're in agreement that it is going to be because it falls apart. The one thing I will say in that arena, though, that I think helps Life and Times is that he's drawn outside of those horses that you mentioned that like to be in front or that could pressure him.
Like Butter.
And so, you know, we don't know if Life and Times will rate because he hasn't done that yet. But I always give the benefit of the doubt to Hall of Fame trainers. If it's like I wonder if they're going to be able to do something. If it's a Hall of Fame trainer, at least until I know, I give them the benefit of the doubt that they will. I think Todd will have this horse ready to run. I think he'll sit off of either Commuted and or Butta, and I think that he'll be tough to beat in here.
All right, well, we will move along to one of the New York Stallion Series stakes, the Fifth Avenue, where it's a wide open group competing for that lucrative purse money, those that are eligible for the New York Stallion Series. And I love these types of races because you do see a lot of people take the opportunity with horses that maybe haven't been on the surface before or still very lightly raced. But you and I agree here that Hot Currency has been impressive, especially with that last number.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he ran really well. I like the draw for her, especially because the other two horses that I thought were interesting were the 1 and the 8. And their price, the one, at least the 1's price isn't that far off. I think the 1's draw is significantly worse than the 10. So I just like the way the horse ran last time. The pace figures were honest enough. You know, he got in. You know, he wasn't in the most comfortable spot early in the race between horses. I think for a young horse is always a little bit tricky. Yeah, like I said, in these types of spots, you know, the 1 or the 8 could jump up and run out, you know, and run like a 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 point faster race and could be tricky. I don't have a problem with that notion, or even the 12 as well. I just think that of those horses, the 10 feels like the most likely. From a multi-race standpoint, I would need to have the 1, 8, 10, and 12. I would need all 4 of them as A types to feel comfortable in here. The 10's just who I picked on top.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think this is a wide open group, but at least with Hot Currency, we've seen this one have a couple of starts and be able to pass horses, which we haven't seen for many of these. And I did just want to take a look back at O's maiden race, where we see this time and time again, and I feel like I've harped on it a lot. This is not a stumble. This is a bobble. This horse is coming out of the gate and takes a little bit of an awkward step. The horse recovers extremely quickly, goes to show that early forward position. The chart comments about stumbling, it's not happening. So it's something that we've been seeing a lot lately, and it irks me, so I figured I would bring it up. But look, this horse was impressive, didn't take any money first time out, ended up winning after that little bit of an awkward step, and really drawing away from this field, and then was able to go off favored, win over a wet track over at Finger Lakes in that stakes race. And I just wonder if this one's going to really be under the gun from the inside post and showing that she has this way of going.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. The funny thing is, though, as I had mentioned, you know, 1, 8, 10, and 12, all 4 of them have similar styles. I don't. They're lightly raced. They're beating horses in those races prior. They're usually better than. So that's why they end up finding themselves there. I don't think that all 4 of them need the lead. It's hard to know which ones aren't going to feel the need to go forward. I will say this, though. O has to go from the inside. I don't understand why Ricardo would take back. He's going to go and hope that she can get comfortable. And I think that the 10 and the 12 are going to have options drawn towards the outside to see what happens towards the inside. So that's why I think those 2 make a lot of sense. I think O's talented, too. But I think it's a fun race, though. It'll be a lot of fun to watch, and hopefully one of those 4 can win. You can survive and advance this pick 5.
All right, we move on to an exciting rendition of the Remsen, where we do have a pretty open morning line for this race, and I think it makes perfect sense given what we are seeing here in terms of horses with likely ability, as well as some hefty purchase prices, pedigrees, hot connections, and we land on the same horse who has yet to actually officially win, but did cross the wire first. And we'll start actually with Talkin, who does come in here off of a loss after finishing a second, a well-beaten second in the Champagne. I wanted to like this horse a little bit more than I did. I don't like the dropping back and then running again after the horse had some forward position earlier on.
Yeah, but it's hard to knock Talking. Talking's one of those horses in the right scenario I could easily pick. I just ended up siding with others. He ran fast last time. He ran into a buzzsaw in Napoleon Solo, so you can't really knock him for that. You run second in a grade 1 like that against a horse who freaks and runs a huge number like that. It's definitely not something you want to knock. I just felt like some of these others were going to be had another step to give. Like Renegade, I thought had another step to give. Courting, I thought had another step to give. Paladin, another step. So that's why I ended up picking those. I ended up with the 11 and 4th, but I think those other 3 have an opportunity to make a bigger jump forward.
Agreed, and both of us going with Renegade, who we'll take a look at. When I wanted to show the start for this horse because he had things up against him from the beginning of this race, where this was his second start overall. He had come out of that It's Our Time monster blowout race, where we've seen that race prove to be extremely productive, actually finishing 3rd in there. And with him, he just was a little bit slow out of the gate, but then he veers towards the inside. And I feel as though he was one that showed a lot of professionalism in this second start, getting a little bit more distance, stretching out for the first time as well. And I thought that it wasn't until the very, very end of the race where you can see that there is a little bit of that hurting, and we have seen the stewards be more proactive with what they do and don't allow lately. But I could have seen this call going either way, and it took them a long time to decide.
Yeah, and the other thing with Renegade too is in that race you mentioned with It's Our Time, this horse was 6-1 in a field where Hero declared it was like the next fastest horse in the world.
Yep.
I think the buzz was he was going to do something Uncle Mo-ish.
He was going to do something like It's Our Time did.
Yeah, exactly, and then It's Our Time did. So I think that there's obviously been a lot of talent here. The pedigree is exciting. Spice is Nice was a very expensive mare that was out of one of my favorite horses of all time, Dame Dorothy, who was bred by Bobby Flay. And Dame Dorothy was named after Bobby's mom and was like a huge score for me when I was like a young horse player. So cool. I'm a huge fan of Dame Dorothy. I just think this horse has a lot of pedigree. I think this horse has an excuse to get better.
You can see right here, it's not until here that this horse ends up shifting over just a little bit right towards the wire right there. And I think that that's what this disqualification ended up being about. And to me, I could have seen it going either way. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, it's one of those deals where, like, I think there's some DQs, I see them, and they make my stomach hurt. It kind of disgusts me a little bit, either I'm involved or not involved, because I know it hurt for someone else, and it's probably not the right result. That's not one that disgusts me either way. It would have been, like, whatever for me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, honestly, it helps us get a little bit of a better price on this horse where you might, at first glance, say that he has yet to win a race. But at the same time, I thought that he was very brave to go through that opening in between horses and really had to wait for that room to be available. I thought that he dug in with a horse towards his inside in here. And I just thought that overall in that race, he did more running than a horse like Paladin, who, look, certainly seems exciting and was more forwardly placed in there, ended up being put up via DQ, a $1.9 million purchase for Chad Brown, who's certainly had success running second in this race with a horse like Sierra Leone a couple of years ago. I just wanted somebody that I thought had more room to improve and might be a slightly better price.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all. I think it's interesting. I think that sometimes the Remsen can come up a little weird. It could be that the race where it's like, oh, these are just 2-year-olds that are ready to go a mile and an eighth, and that's probably going to be their ceiling. I felt we saw that for a while. Obviously, Dornick and Sierra Leone kind of changed the trend with that. This feels like a group that will also change the trend. I feel like a couple of these horses will end up fully on the Derby trail, and I would guess that maybe 2 of them end up in the Derby starting gate. Any
Belmont or Breeders' Cup Classic winners in here?
I don't know. Maybe.
Make a prediction?
Oh, that's the easy one to say no. The odds,
sure.
That is math. Yeah, nope.
All right, fair enough. We do have the full sibling to Clairiere in here as well, Courting, who did win second time out. I thought that this was a race where this horse was supposed to get the job done, ended up having some forward position. Grittiness also comes out of this race. I think this horse would need to take another slight step forward, but certainly moving in the right direction and has the pedigree to take that step.
Yeah, completely agree. Heck of a pedigree. Ran well enough in both career starts and feels like one that's going to appreciate. well, I think a couple of these feel like they're ones that are going to appreciate the extra distance, but the way she's finishing here, the way that her pedigree is set up, you'd like to think that the added ground's not going to be a problem at all.
I think Igniter also a little bit interesting for the Dutrow barn that seems to be heating up lately. A horse who we've seen several come out of that race that this one was last in and move forwards. Anybody else you want to talk about?
No, that's it. I mean, that's it for me.
All right, we move on to the big one, the Cigar Mile, where we do have Doc Sullivan coming out. Connections apparently hoping for a wet track, and a horse who we'll start the conversation with is Crazy Mason, who hasn't won in a little bit, but a horse who is certainly exciting to watch. He comes from absolutely out of the clouds and has sort of found his niche in the more one-turn, longer sprint races, especially the 7 furlongs. He stretches back out in here to the mile. It's not a distance that he has had a ton of success at, but it's not as though he's never tried going a little bit further. You just don't think he's going to get there, and then he suddenly finds a way to win this Carter.
Yeah, my biggest concern with Crazy Mason is I try to be cautious of late running sprinters and I'm not saying that you're doing this, and the assumption that they'll also be that effective going a little bit longer. Certainly he can, and I wouldn't be shocked by any means. He's going to need some pace to kind of materialize, I think, against this type of group. I think he's going to probably want to hope that Phileas Fogg and Bishop's Bay, get hooked. But he'll be running late. You will get a thrill. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, you'll definitely have something to get excited about as we get closer and closer in the stretch with this horse. And I agree. I think that notion is completely inaccurate, and I agree that that's something that many people feel is a valuable one. It's not for me, but I did think that with a horse towards the inside like Mika, who seems to have that one way of being successful and showing forward position, now going to be on the rail with Doc Sullivan coming out of this race, I feel like they kind of have to go with this horse, no?
I would think so. I mean, from the inside, you'd think that they want to take advantage of that position, at least pop away from there and try to get that position and see what Phileas Fogg and Bishop's Bay towards the outside decide to do. I reluctantly landed on Phileas Fogg. It was either between him or Bishop's Bay, but I just don't trust Bishop's Bay. He just feels like kind of like that kind of schoolyard bully, right? Like when he's the biggest kid on the playground, then he's kind of running the show. But then when the big kids show up, he kind of falls away. And I'm not necessarily sure these are the big kids, but I do know that Phileas Fogg does have a lot of stamina, does have enough speed. I just need to figure out how exactly the race is going to unfold for Phileas Fogg. Is Minka going to go, and then Phileas can just kind of sit and have a different dimension about him? But he's run really well consistently in his last, 4, 5, 6 races. So I trust that he'll show up. I just hope that he shows up the right way. Full disclosure, multi-race wagers, I don't have a strong opinion here. It'd probably be like 4, 6, 7 for me. I'd probably use all 3 of them and hold my breath. And try to pick up pieces in other legs, but I landed on the 6 on top just because I trust his consistency more.
Do the changes concern you or invoke any type of feeling about the blinkers going on, as well as the rider change, as well as the cutback in distance?
I've never really loved we're cutting back, let's put blinkers on, because I don't. But at the same time, I do think that Phileas Fogg's best weapon here is to dig into his stamina and to use himself more, because he is, in my opinion, the horse that has the most stamina in the race.
Agreed.
So get involved. I don't necessarily need him to be on the front, but if he gets comfortable because someone else wants to raid off of him, or Mika takes back and Bishop's Bay and he gets comfortable on the front end, I think he'll be very hard to beat, as long as he's ridden accordingly, aggressively.
At least with him, you know that he's capable of going further than this, where I think with Bishop's Bay, as well as a horse like Crazy Mason, they haven't shown up at quite the same level, really having things not necessarily go their own way. Bishop's Bay will show the 49er. He's one that I kind of agree with you. I don't know how good he necessarily is. He does have that one big win in the Westchester over a muddy sealed surface. It seems like he does his better running when he's forward. He's been consistent. He has the will to win, but I also wonder if he's necessarily the type of horse that is going to be that grade 2, grade 1 quality, even though maybe, like as you mentioned, this isn't necessarily the big kids.
Yeah, he's just like, he just has to kind of prove it, right? Like he's just right there on the edge of becoming a 10-to-1 shot in the races for older horses next year, right? you know, he's gonna have to make a huge jump up to be in the conversation with the Sovereignties, the Journalisms, the Baezes, so on and so forth. But he can put himself in that next category if he runs well here today. But he's going to have to run well, and he hasn't consistently enough done that for me to pick him on top. But he certainly could.
All right, well, it seems like it's between those three for the Cigar Mile, and we close things out with a stakes race, the New York Stallion Series Great White Way, where we are pretty much agreeing here that Parker Boone is way the horse to beat based on that first effort. Coming in here for Butch Reed, this horse was so much the best, bet like a good thing, showed that forward position, and won convincingly first time out.
No, he really was. And, you know, he got a 77 buyer that day. But the thing that I like the most about that 77 buyer, first of all, it's faster than anything else has ever run, okay, with a lot of different opportunities. But a lot of people will say, well, who did he beat? Which is my favorite thing. He beat the clock, which is
not State Bred Company.
The other opponent in these types of races. And the other thing that he did is that he earned that 77 with significant pace figures according to Timeform US. When you are running early and then you still have a good final time, that says a lot about how real the performance is. Sometimes you'll get a fast figure from a horse who like took back, got a perfect trip, made one run, and caught a horse that did all the dirty work on the front end. But I like it when the horse does all the work, and I thought that Parker Boone did that.
I agree completely. He's way the horse to beat in here of those that have tried the dirt. And I just wonder if he does lose, it's going to be because some other horses are very aggressive and want to be forward, especially a couple of those stretching out or switching over to the dirt for the first time. I don't think that Sunday Boy is necessarily better than him. At least he hasn't shown it as of yet. But I do think that this horse is coming out of a live race where we saw him finish second into a kind of a weird pace dynamic where the winner set the early pace and ended up holding on. But everybody else who was forward in there ended up fading. One of those horses that ended up fading came back to run well, finishing second yesterday in Royal Riddle, who I liked a little bit. And I think I'm just looking at this as kind of an odd race overall, where Sunday Boy was getting back over to the dirt. It was his first time going a little bit longer. He has that foundation. He's moved forward progressively. And I thought that if things did start cooking a little bit on the front end, that he was my most reliable horse from off the pace.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with that at all. I mean, I had the horse fourth. You know, I think the conversation is the horse I have second. I think is interesting. Is that like I think Spirit of New York is probably the second most talented horse in this race. Mm-hmm. But there's this huge unknown about whether or not he's going to handle the dirt or not.
And isn't he going to be overbet?
I would think so, based on the way they've bet him before.
Irad.
Yeah, he won at Saratoga.
Stakes winner.
Yeah, he probably will be. He'll probably be a shorter price than he deserves to be on the surface he's running in. But I do think that he's a classy horse that could jump up and really appreciate the dirt.
Yeah, we'll see what we get from this group as we made time with 3 minutes to spare. Can you believe it?
Look at that. I got to go be on TV now.
Yeah. Well, this is still TV, right?
Yeah, but you know, like
yeah, the TV,
the upstairs
the other TV. Yeah, the studio. All right, well, that'll do it for us for this rendition of Talking Horses. Exciting day today, and you can bet all of the action, of course. If you head on over to NYRA Bets, you get that $200 deposit match sign-up bonus with promo code bonus200. Head on over to nyrabets.com or scan that QR code. We also have a money-back guarantee. Get your $20 win bet back if your horse comes in second in the Cigar Mile right here at Aqueduct. You can opt in over at nyrabets.com. If you're looking for a little bit more action today, we do have 10 times the loyalty points over at Tampa, 10 times rewards on any race on the Tampa Bay Downs card. And then the show today that Jonathan alluded to, FS1 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., FS2 2 to 5, and we also have that coverage from Caymanas Park, including the Mute Mile, Andy and Maggie on site in Jamaica. It's not something that you want to miss. Plenty of exciting action coming up today. Good luck.
You bet with NYRA Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Download the NYRA Bets app to play today and get a $200 deposit bonus. Watch live horse racing. Get expert picks. Boost your bankroll with weekly promotions and hone your handicapping skills with exclusive tips and tutorials. Download the NYRA Bets app now. Sign up now to claim your $200 deposit match bonus. You bet with NYRA Bets.